And what we move toward then is a kind of grief that is not just something we get over, it's something we integrate into our life to a degree that we can acknowledge the finality of the death, not only intellectually, but also emotionally, without a kind of experiential avoidance of that reality, in which we retain access to bittersweet emotions that remain very much a part of our lives, but also a changing part, where despair may leaven across time into nostalgia and appreciation, where we reconstruct our mental representations, we reorganize our schemas, we reconstruct our constructs of the deceased. We're forming an internal relation that also has external, outward manifestations. We find a way to weave the other into our life stories, including the stories we share with others. And we look to construct more coherence in the narrative of the loss itself, to find at least someone who can stand with us in the darker moments of that loss. That the experience does not become simply a silent story, an unspeakable one, but it's one that can make a kind of sense, even if a painful one, and find at least some audience to the telling as we revise our life goals and roles that now need to be redefined because life is being redefined. What we know is that from a whole bunch of research, including a great deal of research that we've done in the COVID era, that sense-making predicts better grief adaptation in a whole variety of contexts. We find that people in a palliative care context at the end of life, family members anticipating the death of a loved one, both their anticipatory grief and their grief in the aftermath of the death, months following the death, is strongly predicted by the degree to which they were able to somehow make sense of the illness journey, to make sense of the loss itself, to make sense of their changed lives in its aftermath. Sense-making, in terms that we'll look at more closely after our break, also predicts better grief adaptation in relation to natural death loss, violent death loss, losses in the pandemic, to COVID-19 and other causes. We find that this phenomenon holds across our studies of bereaved parents, bereaved spouses, including older adults, young adults experiencing a variety of losses, including of friends as well as family. What we know is that when people are able to somehow integrate the loss into their systems of meaning, they are far better able to move forward with it being a part of their life without bringing that life to conclusion.